Okay, so we're back. So factoring, we know how to do so far. We know how to factor using the greatest common factor. So you pull that out, and then everything else goes on the inside. We know how to factor the perfect square numbers that we just saw in the previous video. And in this video, we are going to factor trinomials. So a trinomial means it has three terms. So all six of these problems have three terms. So 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, all the way across the board. So we're going to be factoring trinomials. So that's going to be our title for this section of your notes. When you're factoring these trinomials, you are looking for two numbers that multiply to give you the last number, add to give you the number in the middle. So two numbers that multiply to give you the last number and add to give you the number in the middle. So we're going to set up two sets of parentheses. And something times something. So in these two blanks here, something times something has to multiply to give you the first term here. So the first term here is x squared. So that's going to be x and x. So that's relatively the simple part. So most people got that. You put your variable in there, ta-da. Now we need to think of two numbers that multiply to give me positive 15, add to give me positive 8. So again, it has to multiply to give me positive 15, add to give us positive 8. So if you need to brush up on multiplication facts or things like that, feel free to do that because factoring is just doing the multiplication backwards. So again, two numbers that multiply to give me positive 15, add to give me 8. Those two numbers are 5 and 3. So this is our final answer. And if you put x plus 3 and x plus 5, same thing. So the commutative property says it's going to give us the same answer. So x plus 5 times x plus 3. Now, I can multiply this out and check our work. So you don't necessarily have to write this out. I'm just showing you that the great thing with factoring is that you can check your work. So if I were to do x plus 5 times x plus 3, when I multiply all of this out, it'll give me the original problem that I started with. So this is what we're used to doing down here, box method or distributive property. Now we're working backwards. So now we are trying to figure out what the factors are that go on the outside. So nonetheless, our answer is x plus 5 times x plus 3. All right, we're going to try a whole bunch more. We're going to go through all of these. Let's set up our parentheses. Something times something, so these two first blanks here have to multiply to give you c squared. So that's going to be c and c. Now you need to think of two numbers that multiply to give you a positive 20, add to give you negative 9. So multiplies to give you positive 20, add to give you negative 9. So things that give me 20, I can do 10 times 2, I can do 5 times 4, but when I add it together, it has to give me a negative. So I know that my sign should be two negatives because a negative times a negative gives me a positive, and when you add two negatives, it stays negative. So this should be c minus 5 and c minus 4. Okay, so I'm going to sound like a broken record, but just for your benefit, multiply this out either in your head or actually multiply it out. You should get the original problem. Negative 5 times negative 4 is positive 20. Check. Negative 5 plus negative 4 is negative 9. Check. So this is our final answer. All right, the middle section here, let's go ahead and set up our parentheses. We're going to have m and m. So we're factoring m squared plus 10m minus 24. This time we need to think of two numbers that multiply to give me negative 24, add to give us positive 10. Multiplies to give negative 24, adds to give positive 10. So there are lots of things that give us 24. 6 times 4, 8 times 3, 2 times 12. Lots of different things, but only one of those combinations is going to multiply to give me negative 24. So that's going to be 12 and 2. Negative 2. All right, let's double check. 12 times negative 2 is negative 24. Check. 12 plus negative 2 is positive 10, so we're in business. M plus 12 times M minus 2. If you had M minus 2 and then M plus 12, same thing. The commutative property says we can switch that. All right, let's come down here to D. So something times something has to give me y squared. We'll go ahead and put in y times y. This time we need two numbers that multiply to give me negative 24, add to give me negative 2. Again, multiplies to give you the last number. In this case, it's negative 24. Adds to give you negative 12. Lots of things give us 24. I know that my sign here is a negative, so I know that my signs in here should be a negative and a positive, because the only way you get a negative if you're multiplying is that if one's a negative and one's a positive. So this should be y minus 6 and y plus 4. Negative 6 times positive 4 is negative 24. Negative 6 plus 4 is negative 2. So we are in business. Okay. A couple more that we're going to try. We got this one up here. So we're going to set up our parentheses. Something times something has to give me x squared. So this problem is x squared plus 7x minus 18. So we are factoring x squared plus 7x minus 18. We need to think of two numbers that multiply to give me negative 18, add to give me 7. So I know things that give me 18 are going to be 9 and 2. And I know that one of my numbers has to be negative because, and one has to be positive because my number here is negative. So plus, minus. 9 times negative 2 is negative 18. 9 plus negative 2 is positive 7. So this is correct. If you had x minus 2 and x plus 9, same thing. The commutative property says we can flip those around, same thing. And last but not least, f. We'll go ahead and set up our parentheses. Something times something has to give me x squared. And that way you can see all of it in the window that I got here. Okay, there we go. So this is x squared minus 12x plus 36. X squared minus 12x plus 36. Something times something has to give me x squared. So that's going to be x and x. We need to think of two numbers that multiply to give me 36. Add to give me negative 12. So multiplies to give me positive 36, adds to give us negative 12. So that should be negative 6 and negative 6. Hopefully you see that these are the same two factors, so I can write it once. I can condense it, like make it smaller, make it shorter. So this is going to be x minus 6 squared. If you left it as x minus 6 times x minus 6, same difference, but you can go ahead and condense it and put it together as x minus 6 squared. So the take-home point for this, when you are factoring trinomials, you are looking for two numbers that multiply to give you the last number. So two numbers that multiply to get the last number. Two numbers that multiply to get the last number. Add to get the number in the middle. And if you need to write that out a little bit more or add a little more detail, but this is the take-home point for this type of factoring. If you're factoring trinomials, you're looking for two numbers that multiply to get the last number. Add to get the number in the middle. And the signs will be able to help you. If you know you're multiplying to get a positive, it's either got to be two positives or two negatives. If you know you're multiplying to get a negative, one has to be a positive and one has to be a negative. So you have to use the signs and stuff to help you, and of course your multiplication facts. So this is factoring trinomials.